Usually people say that you need at least like a gram of protein per pound of body weight. Some people say double that or more. And I want to take this video to talk about human physiology and that kind of thing and get to that. But first, I want to just show some examples of people that are following an 80-10-10 type diet. Not necessarily all of them are 100% raw vegans. I'm not even 100% raw vegan. I'm kind of on the raw till 4 type program right now. But I just wanted to show some examples of people that are doing it, that are getting great results with strength training, with muscle building, and they're kind of, only getting about 10% of their calories from protein and 10% of their calories from fat. And they follow a carbohydrate based, either primarily fruit. The examples I chose are fruit eaters mostly, but there are plenty of starch eaters out there too. And first up, this is a guy that I know from Facebook. He seems like a super nice guy. His name's Tony Rogers. And, I met Tony through the vegan bodybuilding page there on Facebook. It's Vegan Bodybuilding and Fitness. And Tony, puts up some lifts. I think he told me that he had only been lifting for about 6 months here. So, this is tremendous results for, just 6 months of lifting. Next is Patrick Bronkers. I think Patrick is, I got the impression he was like European or something somehow. I saw some other languages or something in his page, but same kind of deal. I think he was really into fitness and doing like body weight type training. And then he kind of got into like 5x5 type lifting and did the whole thing on a. So once he got into like the 5x5 type program or something like that, I think he's been lifting for another year now. So he was into fitness before, he's into weightlifting now, following a fruit-based diet. He said he eats some starches and that kind of thing, but so there's Patrick. Chris Califano, I know from the 30 Bananas a Day website. Chris is a great example, been like really long time, like 20 plus year, maybe more. I don't know what the picture has on. I think he told like the times and dates that he had been vegan and raw and that kind of thing. Follows a ultra low. He said for large stretches of time he only consumed about 5% calories from protein, 5% from fat, and 90. I don't recommend that. I think for most people you'll get really low in some of your essential fatty acids, and you may you're not providing your body with some of the basic hormone production building blocks. So having an ultra low fat diet like that may not be beneficial in the long run. But at the same time, Chris seems to be doing pretty well on it, so maybe it doesn't affect muscle building as much, or at least he was able to maintain. I don't know, but whatever he's doing, it was working for him, so you can't argue with the results. And next, everybody uses Carl S., but he's a great example. He takes some the like Sun Warrior protein, the raw protein or whatever, uses it. But I looked at this stuff. I wouldn't personally use it, or I don't personally use it, I should say, because it's super expensive. But aside from that, it only has like 15 grams of protein or something per scoop, so if he's only using like 1 scoop per day, is it really that beneficial? I don't know. But he said he eats some like beans and stuff and mostly fruit. So there's Carl S. Carl did say he gets more like 20% of his calories from fat rather than 10. So interesting, but everybody wants to jump to protein. Carl kind of didn't mess with the protein. He said, I think protein's fine the way it is. He wanted more calories from fat, so he went for the fat. And last but not least is myself. Here's a before and after picture of me. And what's funny about me is, one was a little over a year ago, the first one there, and then the second one is just about a week ago. And the thing about that is that I am 25 pounds heavier. I was about 175 in the first photo when I started lifting, and then in the second one I am over 200 pounds. So I've increased 25 pounds in the last year of, pretty much just muscle. I mean, you look at the pictures, my body fat level is very similar. So even if you're factoring in water retention or anything like that, it's similar in both pictures. So, I mean, the negative side of that is I don't look like incredibly bigger or more muscular per se, but I obviously am a lot bigger because I added 25 pounds. And not only that, but my lifts are, in some cases I think they tripled. I remember I brought up the squat story before. I tried to squat like 185 when I first started lifting. I did 2 reps and I put the bar down and kind of I didn't black out, but like I got really dizzy and fell down to the ground. I was on my knees. And now I'm doing 300 pounds for sets of 10. So, that's a pretty big jump in strength. So it's not just a muscular thing. But anyways, going back to the point, this whole thing about protein, how much protein do we need to build muscle? And I want to talk about human physiology, and we'll look at it from a couple different areas. I'm trying to get out of the light so there's not a huge glare there. But one thing is, how much muscle do you think you can build in a given period of time? And I know a lot of drug users or guys that are using steroids will kind of go by like, this thing like 1 pound a month is, pretty easy. So, maybe when you first start out, that might be completely realistic on a natural, nutrition program or whatever. You're just gaining a pound of muscle per month in your first 6 months or so. That's not difficult. But, when you kind of get into being like a seasoned lifter and you've been lifting for, maybe longer than I have, say maybe 2 or 3 years, you're probably not going to build a pound of muscle per month. That's just ridiculous. I mean, to think that, you're either really naive or you just haven't been around it enough. You haven't considered it. You've been told by, these people that are probably trying to sell you something, or they're just being extremely deceptive that you can do that on a just natural lifting and stuff, and it's just not true. But we'll go with that. We'll go with that and say you can build a pound of muscle per month. And let's say, how much protein is in a pound of muscle? And that's a realistic question. If so the real answer, I've seen various things on the internet. Looking at it, you can look at it from food perspective. You look at food like chicken breast. And figure out, that. You can look at it, human muscle. There's obviously going to be variations from animal to animal in density and things like that, but I'd say a fair round number just to put on it that I think falls in the middle of some of the discrepancies that I saw is about 700 grams in 1 pound. So if you can build 1 pound of muscle in 1 month, and you are you need to give yourself the protein, the raw building blocks to do that, you're going to need that 700 grams. Well, you split that up over 30 days, and you have, it's like 26, 27 grams or something. We'll say 25, just to make the math easier. Well, now, how much protein do you need for basic human needs? And that number is, also really not that high. The basic number that's usually generalized and given is that you need, like, maybe we'll say 50 to 65 grams. That's kind of a general ballpark figure. I've seen different recommendations or different general things. But so we'll throw that in there. So, the 25 grams I mentioned was for, like, the athletic side. You need that for building muscle and tissue repair. Okay, so now you've got 25 grams for muscle. We'll say you're on the bigger side of that, so you're closer to needing like 65 grams for your general needs aside from athletic. So now you're up to, well, it's 75 plus, 15 would be 90. So now you're at like 90 grams of protein for a whole day, and that will build you a pound of muscle, which I already discussed. You're probably not going to build unless you haven't been lifting very long. So now you're up to 90 grams of protein in a day. And, say you want to throw in an extra 10 grams just for assurances. I mean, that 50 to 65, that had already taken in assurances. That had already kind of taken that process on. But we'll go ahead and throw it in, to factor, maybe, whatever. We'll just throw it in to make it a round number. So you're up to 100 grams of protein a day now. The general recommendation is that you see from people is the 1 pound or 1 gram per pound. Like I said, I weigh 200 pounds. That would mean that I would need 200 grams of protein a day or more. I saw one person say that you're not going to get any results on that. You need like 1.5 pounds or 1.5 grams per pound. So now I'm like up to 300 grams of protein a day. And why? Why? Physiologically, your diet would have to be so piss poor in the foods that you choose to eat that everything would be excreted or oxidated. And that's just not necessary. If you're eating a diet based around fruits and vegetables, you absorb the proteins better. And I say that because it has to do with heating. It has to do with the breakdown of the foods and the ease of breaking them down, especially with fruits. Vegetables, not as much, but I mean there's still a factor there that vegetables are definitely more easily absorbed than grains or especially meats. So I mean this is where I think that a lot of these guys that are getting results on a frutarian diet are able to do it. And then people will always argue that, but so I don't really have a whole lot else to say about it. That's the physiological side. You saw some people that get the results, and there you have it. Leave questions and comments in the box below, and hope to see you guys soon.